Hi there everyone, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. The second in our re-reviewed episodes, and today we are looking at the Sega Game Gear, the portable follow-up to the Sega MegaDrive, which we reviewed last week. So, the Sega Game Gear, it was released in 1991 as a portable version of the MegaDrive system. It was an 8-bit console, so lower than the 16-bit or 32-bit, depending on what you had for the Mega Drive, but closer to the Master System. So let's take a look at the console itself. They were by no means small. For a portable console, it was pretty beefy, about the size or even longer than a VHS tape. You had your D-pad as usual over on the left, which was quite small but had good feedback and a good range of movement in it, so actually worked quite well. You just had two buttons over on the right hand side labelled 1 and 2, so much more similar to what you had on the Master System rather than the Mega Drive, and the start button above. Okay, it had a 3.2 inch screen, so quite a lot smaller than you'd see on a mobile phone for gaming these days, but it was more than good enough at the time. It had 160 by 140 display resolution pixels, which again was very good for the time, which all leads into the fact that this was seen as an upmarket, more technically advanced competitor to Nintendo's Game Boy. Also combined with the fact that it had a colour screen compared to Game Boy's, I say black and white, but it was more black and green coloured screen that they were using. Down on the bottom left hand corner was the speaker, which was always a bit of an odd positioning, because once you had your hand over the D-pad you might accidentally be blocking the speaker with your palm. Over on the back you had your spaces for your batteries, so that it could be used as a portable device when you're out and about. It used 6 AA batteries, so it took quite a bit of power going there. And then above that you had your slot for your cartridges. So pulling those out and taking a look, they are just like the cartridges that you see on the other Sega consoles around the time, just a lot smaller. So going across the top of the console, you have your power switch, you have a power cable input so that you could run it off of the mains rather than using up a battery when you're at home. You have a brightness control over on the right hand side. There is a headphone socket so you can listen to the music coming out of the game without disturbing everyone else around you, and a volume control over on the left hand side. Now, the Game Gear was a popular console. It didn't catch up to the Game Boy standards, unfortunately, but it did do well enough for Sega to consider it a success. This was mostly down to the games that were being released with it. So here we've got Space Harrier, Wonder Boy, Alien 3, and Sonic 2. So you had a lot of those familiar games from the Sega console coming through onto this portable device. We say portable, let's face it, it's not like this thing was fitting in your pocket. They also released the game Columns, which was their competition to the very popular Tetris on Game Boy. Columns, very similar format, slot and shape together, but in this one you had to match the colours also. Basically Sega rubbing it in Nintendo's face that they had a colour screen. There were plenty of accessories released with the Sega Game Gear. So one of the ones we've got here is the screen magnifier. So if you felt that the 3.2 inch screen was a little bit too small for you, you could buy this. So on an already unportable portable device, you are now adding double the size again. This thing really wasn't going out with you on public transport. I mean, look at the size of it. Some of the other accessories that were released were part of Sega trying to sell this as the premium portable console. So you could actually buy a TV tuner which you plugged into the back, would turn your Game Gear device into a portable television, which again were popular in the 90s. You remember people walking around with those big aerials sticking out trying to watch their sport on the go. And it turned the Game Gear into one of those devices. The main problem Sega had is some of those accessories. For example, the TV tuner used to retail at £75 on its own, on a console that was already costing up to £130 compared to the £70-80 just for the console on the Game Boy. It was just priced was so much higher that most people wouldn't have considered it, which was ultimately their downfall. They kind of carved out their own segment in the market with this premium console that cost so much. It's ultimately felt that the decline in the Game Gear success was actually due to the fact that Sega decided to focus more on their home consoles and didn't put the marketing push that maybe they should have done, because anyone who actually owned the system was a big fan of it. All the reviews of it were very positive at the time, and all the adopters of it, they never once considered going to a Game Boy. So it was certainly seen as the superior console. It just didn't get the marketing push or backing that it should have had. And also the pricing point meant a lot of people didn't consider it, which maybe would have done had it had that bigger push. The other feeling was that they rushed it out with this 8-bit processing system, that it was good enough at the time. It was very impressive for a portable console, but Sega always felt they could do better, and they had plans for a 16-bit portable device, which they actually ended up releasing in the mid-90s. Ironically, that one came too late, the Sega Nomad, and didn't hit the same success that the same Sega Game Gear did. So, whilst it was often seen as the second place portable games console to the Game Boy, it certainly was superior in terms of its technology and its capabilities, barring the fact that for a portable device it wasn't so portable. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick look back at the Sega Game Gear. If you've enjoyed this re-reviewed feature, please take a look at last week's look at the Sega MegaDrive. Next week we will be looking to line up another piece of retro technology for us to take a look at. Please subscribe to our channel where you'll see reviews for other technology, or follow us on Twitter @TechViewd for all the latest technology news. Thank you.